Ladies and gentlemen, this is Jim Nowakowski. Good morning. How are you? It's a rainy day where I'm at. I don't know what the weather's like in your neck of the woods, but every day that we're upright, it's a good day. This is staying in front of your customers with social media during and after COVID-19. This is a revamp of our very popular social media presentation. We're here for you. I'm so glad you were able to join us. This is AIA accredited. We have architects in the audience. So all you have to do is just contact us with your AIA number and we'll make sure you get the credit. It's also IDCEC approved. So if you're a designer and you're a member of this wonderful association, this program also carries credit for you. And finally, it's NKBA approved. NKBA, of course, is the National Kitchen and Bath Association. It's also copyrighted, but as I mentioned, I will be recording it, and you'll be able to grab it afterwards. And also, if you want to share it with your fellow employees, it's also CEU credited online as well. But for now, we're live. We're live, ladies and gentlemen, and the course is about social media and the attention and interest it's been gaining during and intensified during COVID-19. Isn't that interesting how a virus intensifies it? Knowing how to navigate your business with these messages is daunting, especially since platforms like the virus seem to proliferate. And this course is going to reveal the benefits of social media and how to use it to stay in front of your customers by integrating other tactics. This is going to shock many of you, what I'm going to tell you in this course, but that's okay. I'm not here not to shock you. I'm here to help you make more money. So this course is going to use examples and show attendees how strategy and audience are the keys to understanding interactions on social media. That said, some of the objectives I outlined is we're going to look at social media and why it's essential in business nowadays. It still is essential in business, but it's not the way it was before the virus. I'm telling you right now. The virus has changed things forever. What we're going to look at is recommendations on how to use strategy. In other words, sit back, buckle up, relax, take notes, ask questions. There's a question box for you to ask questions. And I think you can do that anytime during the presentation. And we're going to show you how to understand the benefits of platforms. Because platforms, like I mentioned earlier, like the virus, are proliferating. There's more and more platforms. And I want to give you some examples on how to use this. Social media, we believe, you believe, is essential in business. But is it still essential? Sorry for the typo. I just added that line today because when the virus occurred, people started declaring businesses essential or not essential. And you and I and everyone else in the country were victims not only of the virus, but of the government's reaction to the virus. Now, when the governments decided to lock down, arbitrarily or declare some businesses essential and others not essential, what they started doing is divvying up and causing confusion. Social media outlets proliferated that confusion because on social media, everyone's opinion counts, doesn't it? Or does it? This is what I'm going to ask about your business. How do you use social media in your business? Are you essential in your business? Of course, your business is essential to you, but to the virus, who doesn't really care who you are, what you are, how old you are, and the government, who doesn't seem to care who old we are, how old we are, or what type of business we're in, suddenly we're cast in this world of COVID-19, and we're expected to really modify our behavior and use social media to communicate. Ladies and gentlemen, you don't need social media to do business. You need to understand social media to do business, but you don't really need it to do business. Why do I say that? Because social media before COVID, during COVID, which we're in now, and after COVID is an adjunct to business. It's not business. It's an adjunct to business. Aristotle said, define your terms. Well, social media are really a bunch of platforms or channels right? They're channels that arose because of the internet. People hopped on them and started communicating to each other. So if you're on Twitter or if you're on Facebook, what you're really doing is learning a language to communicate with other people on there. Of course, we use English, and sometimes we use, of course, profanities and other things, right? Videos now become a large part of social media. But the point is, you're still using it as a channel. It's a language, and you have to understand how to speak the language if you're going to be effective. I think you understand what I'm talking about. So don't forget to ask questions if you don't. And let me give you an example of what I'm talking about. Wikipedia today lists at least 209 social media channels. They have 350 footnotes to explain those channels. It is impossible for you to keep up. You might as well just right now realize you can never keep up. Let me give you the most recent example. TikTok. TikTok is a new social media platform, brand new. You know what's going on with TikTok today? You know what's going on. TikTok is actually the government, again, is saying that what they want to do is they're going to ban TikTok unless it's sold to someone in the United States. So if you're using this channel and suddenly you wake up and the channel is gone, what are you going to do? Well, I'll just find some other channel. Of course you will. But do you really need this channel? Why are you using these channels? Why do you use any channel? Facebook, Twitter, whatever. Understand this. Facebook just banned, right? They're starting to act more like a publisher than they are a social media channel. They're walking right into the hands of the government. So you have to, what I'm suggesting to you, ladies and gentlemen, is that you have to be careful of the channels you choose in social media. This course was totally different before the virus. The virus has done one thing. It took away everything. The ocean, the tide is gone, and it has revealed everything for what it is. That's what we're going to talk about today. How many people really recognize Parler? Parler is emerging to confront Twitter, one of my favorite channels, because Twitter, they believe, is biased now. So you have all sorts of confusion, and add to that the virus, which is really confusing anybody. So you have to choose your channels wisely, and please remember this. If you walk away with any one thing today, I want you to understand something. Social media is just a collection of channels. And I'm going to say this more than once, so make sure you pay attention to this now. Your most important channel is your website. I'm going to repeat that throughout this presentation. Wait a minute, Jim. I didn't know my social media, my website is a social media channel. Of course you did or you did not, but of course it is. Why is it? Because it's on the internet. If you're on the internet, you're on a channel. Well, wait a minute, Jim. What about email? Email is transmitted on the internet, but it ends up in your computer. If you're on the internet, talking, listening, you're on a channel. And your website is the most important channel. And what you have to do is figure out if your customers are even using these channels before you make a commitment to the channel. You're going to hear me say this more than once. You have 24 hours in a day. That's it. I will give anyone $1,000 if they can find me the 25th hour. I'm not kidding. I've had that offer out there for a long time. No one can give me the 25th hour because there's only 24, unless, of course, you start fooling around with time. So what you have to do is step back, take in the landscape, relax, take your mask off because you're virtual now, right? But most important, time. Time is of the essence. You don't have it. I don't have any more than I have. So whatever, that's why I'm so grateful you're spending this hour with me. You could be doing something else. You could be posting on Facebook. You could, whatever. But you're spending it with me to think these things through. That's the most important thing. Are you better off investing it in posting, or are you better off in using it something else? But wait a minute, Jim. I've heard that if you're not at the table, you're on the menu. They used to talk like that in the old days, right? Pre-COVID, the old days, 7 months ago. That's not true anymore. There is no table. Look at what's happening to restaurants today. Look at what's happening to the restaurants where all the tables existed. Right? There's a lot to be learned from that. So not everyone eats at the same restaurant. Not everyone eats at the same channels. If you're getting your news from these channels and not getting multiple sources of news, guess what, ladies and gentlemen? You're probably not hearing the truth. You have to have more than one source of information. That's all social media channels are. They're sources of information. And one of the takeaways today, quit talking. I'm going to do the talking today, but when you're on these channels, stop talking. Listen, you're going to see that today. You have to have a strategy of integrated communications if you're going to survive in business. You and only you can make these decisions. Don't listen just to me. Do your own research. Ask other people, what are they doing? That's what I've been doing that for a long time. And quite frankly, when the virus hit, we did not miss a beat. We turned on everything we've been doing for the last 30 years, and we just started doing it. And now we're enjoying a renaissance again because we outlasted the virus's effects. And by the way, I didn't do it on social media. We use these channels, but that's not where the business is coming. You're going to use these channels for different purposes. The most important communication you have is your website, and there are only 2 questions you have to ask. Not only just about your website, but about every post or platform. What is the purpose? Why are you doing that? Who is your audience? Right? Who is your audience? Well, Jim, if I tweet it to my follow, it's not just your followers when you tweet, when you go on these channels. It's the world. The world can find you. Do you care what the world says? Do you care if the world finds you? Do you care to speak to the world? Are you that desperate for business you're going to go all over the globe looking for it when it's probably happening right in your backyard? This is very important. This is called strategic planning. What is your purpose for saying anything? You know what my purpose is today for this webinar? Is to share what we've learned pre-COVID, during COVID, and today. And we're always learning. You have to be a lifelong learner. Senders, receivers, this never changes. Well, Jim, didn't the virus affect that? No. The virus had senders, we were sending lots of information about the virus. And if you listen to the information and just listen to the information about the virus, you know one thing. Nobody knows what the hell they're talking about. Do you believe this today and that tomorrow? If you truly listen to what's being said, we are not saying don't be safe. We are not belittling. We are not saying anything like that. We're just saying if you let the virus information control you, or do you control the information? Do you let the channels control you? Or do you control the channels? It's a simple question, but it's a difficult question to answer because there's listening and talking and influencers and there's things going on. But the thing is if everyone is talking, if everyone's talking, me, right? Who's listening? You have to become a listener. I didn't talk for 3 years when I was an English teacher. When I first started my first English teacher job, I went to these meetings, and to me it was like, why am I here? They were saying nothing. And I try to be objective about it. But if you've ever been an English teacher in an English department meeting, you'll realize what I'm talking about. People talk and they don't say anything. So I didn't talk for 3 years. Nobody asked me a question either for 3 years. And then the 3rd year I talked. And guess what happened, ladies and gentlemen? People turned around and they were stunned. I even forgot what the heck I talked about. But they were stunned because I had never talked before. I said something. And then I started contributing more and more once. And that's what you have to do. You have to judge your shots when you talk. Who should your customers be? You got current customers? I've talked to countless designers in showrooms since COVID started. This has been for all businesses, not just architects and showrooms, for marketing companies like ourselves. This has been a devastating situation. But ladies and gentlemen, it wasn't the virus that caused it. It was the government reaction to the virus that caused it. Not the virus, the government reaction to the virus. And I'm all for staying safe. I know people in the audience who've had it. I think I've had it. I've been tested for the antibodies. I didn't have enough to say I had it. I don't know what the enough is enough, but that's another story. But I'm just saying, you cannot let people's reaction to what you want to do in your business dictate what you should be doing to survive as a business. Do you know the devastation that's going to be caused because of the reaction to the virus? I heard this morning, 1 out of 6 small businesses, 1 out of 6 is going to fail. And depending on your industry, like restaurants, it's going to be more than that. I don't want to fail. I did a blog once about the worst thing that can happen to your business. And one of the young men, these were the young entrepreneurs of America, I was talking at their meeting, and I said, what's the worst thing that can happen? And one kid raised his hand, and I finally called on him. I said, what is it, Alex? He goes, assassination. I said, assassination? He goes, absolutely. I come from the Philippines. Of course. Guess what happened here? We've been assassinated by our own rules, by our own confusion. Profiling isn't a bad word. Strategy is most important. I believe we need a strategy, and the strategy is this. Be careful, be safe, but drive for business. In the words of Ed Bean, act big, think big, be big. Well, Jim, that's hard to do when there's a virus going on. Of course it is. I have for my first meeting after 4 months, the client called me up. I blogged about this as well. And he said, would you mind coming over? I said, would I mind coming over? I would. I'm there. He says, I'll wear 3 masks if you want. He says, no, we want you to wear a mask. I said, you got it. I bought a thermometer. I took my own temperature when I walked in. I sat for 2 hours in a meeting with a mask on. It was the most horrific experience I had. At the end of the meeting, he said, well, if you want to, you can take it off as long as you stay at the other end of the table. I said, no, I'm good. This is a true story, ladies and gentlemen. And so I wrote a blog. Many people agree with that blog. We're all for safety, but common sense safety. Who's your brand with the most important recognition? Are you sure about that? What is a brand? You are the brand. And brands today, you are the brand. Your website is a brand. And the rule of marketing is the first brand in the brain gets twice the long-term market share. COVID-19 is a brand. It's not just a virus. It's become a brand. If you hear COVID-19, you react in a certain way. That's branding, right? Number 2, twice as much. 3, Sergio Zyman, one of the former Coke employees, he put it perfectly. The sole purpose of marketing, regardless if you're using social media or not, is to get more people to buy more of your product more often for more money, right? You don't get any money until you sell stuff. And you can't sell the stuff until you get people to want it, right? This was true before the virus. If you took apart the organization of Coke, right, you can build it back in 5 years because of the brand. But if you take away the brand name, you'd be lucky to rebuild it because Coca-Cola had such a strong brand. Everybody knows it, right? How many people know your brand? How long have you taken it to build? Has the virus affected it? Ladies and gentlemen, the virus has affected all brands, not just yours. This is a thing that just appeared over the weekend about Coca-Cola. They're laying 4,000 people off. They're devastated by it. Their sales are plummeting. Sorry. Why? Nobody's going to pay. They got cardboard cutouts at stadiums these days. Nobody's buying the Coke, right? Can you imagine that? What if you worked at Coca-Cola and didn't have your own business? What if you were not an architect but working over there and you have no control over it? Ladies and gentlemen, you have to understand that you are the brand. Your brand is under attack by the virus, by the rules, by By when governors declare certain businesses as essential and other businesses non-essential, they are making a judgment on your livelihood. The whole question is, what is a life? How can you have a life without a livelihood? That's the real question. What kind of life are you going to have? My information is basically telling me that I want to live. I want to live healthy, of course, but business is my life. I am not going to allow people to define what is essential and not essential. You have to know your brand identity and what it means to people. What's love? There's a couple of blogs you can read. What's love got to do with a brand? And also, what a brand is. This is research by our sister company, Accountability Information. Rolex. This is true before and after the virus. Does it keep better time than Timex? If you take a brand away and you replace it, what happens? Take away your services as an architect or your services as a designer or your services as a manufacturer. Take that away. People, will people complain or just find somebody else? What is your offer? What are you offering? And how does social media enhance what you're offering or detract with what you're offering? Does your behavior on social media affect your brand? Ladies and gentlemen, this is the moment to answer these questions. This is the moment where you start defining your brand and what it means. When the virus first hit, the first thing we did is we made a mailing to our client base. We bought marbles, put them in a sack, and we mailed it out to our clients with a simple, proposal, little card in there that said, did everyone lose their marbles? So when they opened it up, they saw the package of marbles and say, we're ready to work for you. Let's start, don't stop marketing. The worst thing you can do is stop marketing. Well, Jim, if everybody's locked down, nobody's buying anything. That's not true. You know the mistake we made in mailing that? We forgot our clients were locked down and didn't go to the office. Shame on us. Shame on us. So how did we recover from that? We called each one of them up and said, when you get back to the office, watch for our marbles. We had great conversation. We reminded them we exist. You know what happens in lockdowns is people forget about you because of the fear that the virus generates. Because everybody gets afraid, they forget about you. They're more worried. I saw a guy the other day trying to open up a FedEx box. I'm right outside. We've kept going to work, ladies and gentlemen. He said, I can see these FedExes and mail UPS boxes right outside my window in my office. And the guy's in a suit, and he takes his elbow and he opens the chute, right? With his elbow, he throws in his package, lets it slam, opens it with the elbow, and he's looking in it, and it's obviously got stuck. So he's taking his elbow with his suit on, right? It wasn't raining like today, and he starts jiggling the thing like you do when the envelope gets stuck. And it was a big envelope, but it got stuck. It wasn't working. Then he takes his sleeve and rolls it down over his hand, grabs the handle and starts shaking it violently until he's satisfied that envelope fell into the box, right? And then he walks away calmly. Here's my question. Do you think the virus was hanging around the handle? Yes or no? There's only yes or no, right? Well, yes, it was, Jim. Okay. Would you have done that, or would you just grab the damn handle and then go wash your hands? Right? He didn't have a mask on. He did not have a mask on. Okay, I'm saying that what we have to do is approach this with common sense. Business is business. No one wants any harm to come to your business. But what you want to do is you have to drive business and understand this is the moment to do that. You have to listen. If you go on any social media channel, what are they talking about? COVID-19, right? Change. Don't even get involved in conversations like that. Ignore it. Well, you're going to hear some recommendations today too. Well, Jim, what if they attack me on social media? Ignore them. When I was a teacher, we used to have parent-teacher conferences, right? I was the teacher of underachievers. So we'd have these meetings, and I'll never forget this one parent. She was talking about, she said, I don't know what to do with Johnny. I just don't know what to do with him. He watches too much television. And I'm listening to this. Now, I know the answer, but I didn't have to do it. There was a truck driver named Richard. I'm not going to give you his last name. I still remember it to this day. He's looking at this poor woman beside herself. She doesn't know what to do. And he looked at her and he says, why don't you just turn it off? Why don't you turn the television off? This was years ago. Turn the social media channel off. Turn it off. You don't have to respond. You don't do anything by talking. Before COVID, we recommended to a manufacturer, don't get involved in a fist fight on social media. You will lose every time. Because you're the manufacturer. They take pot shots at you. Okay? You never learn anything by talking, and you certainly don't learn anything by locking yourself down. Here's some things I heard since the virus hit. And what does that mean? I interview people, I go to webinars, I contribute on webinars, I go to clients, believe it or not, right? People are going through TSA security. July, there would be this is what I heard, 2.7 million people they used to go through TSA. Today, 600,000. Ladies and gentlemen, that's a startling statistic. United Airlines and American Airlines said unless they get another infusion of funds, they're done. They're going to be laying off massive amounts of people. Right? That's going on around you. I was talking to a showroom the other day. The showroom was telling me they fell from number one in their franchise down to the last one because everything had stopped, of course. Right? But they were really suffering from their supply chains. Their supply chains they couldn't get through because they were shut down. It's enormous how dominoes fall, isn't it? Isn't it? Doesn't it cause disruption like that? Here's the question. When you hear things like that, what are you going to do that's different to address it? What would you do if you were the airlines? Look at the next quote. Emirates Airline is going to pay for COVID treatments if you get COVID when you travel with them. Ladies and gentlemen, look at that offer. If you travel with me, says Emirates, right, and you get COVID, I'm going to pay for your treatment if you get it while you're traveling with us. Now, what does that mean? That means they have to figure out if you had it when you got on the plane, right? If you got it during the flight from someone else. So they're taking steps to be safe. But they're not shutting down entirely. Are they scaling back? Who wouldn't? You'd be crazy if you didn't scale back. But they're not just becoming a victim. Empty hotel rooms being used for meetings. Hotels were created, normal things, that was all of a sudden hotels are getting slammed, right? Empty hotel rooms are now being used for meetings. They clean them up. They advertise them to businesses who want to meet safely. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, they're being innovative. They're taking a negative and turning it into a positive. Do you know math? A negative times a negative is, in fact, a positive. Right? If you are not focused on planning for next summer, you won't be able to do it. There's a pent-up demand. You think this is a very serious statement that I heard on a webinar. If you're not planning now, when that demand explodes, you're not going to be. You remember the quote I just told you? If you're not at the table, you're on the menu. Don't be on the menu. Start doing things so when things do open up, you're not an afterthought. You're in the minds of your customers and prospects. A few more things. Quote, we made more changes in 3 months than in the last 10 years. Think about that. This virus has caused this company, a major company, I'm not going to tell you who it is, that basically said this in a webinar I was on. They were on a panel. This company made more changes in 3 months than in the last 10 years. What the heck have you been doing for the last 10 years? You've been living on your brand. This was a very big company. Living on its brand, business as usual. They're saying disrupted for the better, thinking about the customer and serving the customer to succeed. Ladies and gentlemen, if you weren't doing that before the virus, heavens to mercy, you weren't doing anything, right? 2 themes we've done so far give rise to the countless offerings we're doing. Speed and agility. Speed and agility of change. You know who said that? Marcus Luttrell. These are 2 fundamental things to think about with your strategy. You have to be fast and agile. Guess what? Big companies can't do that. The larger you are, the more difficult it is to turn that ship. The advantages of small businesses today to outflank bigger companies has never, ever been greater. It's a wonderful opportunity for you to think about these changes. Connecting with employees emotionally so they feel safe coming to work every day. New procedures and tools. Feel safe, feel safe, feel safe. Absolutely, we want to feel safe. Who doesn't want to feel safe? If you don't feel safe, imagine yourself in one of these riot-stricken cities. If you don't feel safe, how can you operate? What do you do? Because that's what the virus did, ladies and gentlemen. It started riots in everything you've done. It actually caused disruption in what you do, what I do, what everybody did. It's not burning cities, but it's burning business. We have to do something about that. Business is a conversation. It's telling people about yourself, about them. Sometimes it's more subtle indicators. Live life in a dignified way or suggest values. This is a direct quote from somebody who I was listening to. You know, a tweet can put a brand in crisis. It did before virus, it did during virus, it does after the virus. That's why these social media channels are dangerous. They're very dangerous. Be careful if you use them. Overreacting will put your brand in jeopardy immediately because the word has changed forever. What do I mean by that? One word. Anything you say nowadays is being scrutinized. It was scrutinized before, but now it's been amplified because of the virus. Things mean something. Keep your social media work and activity business. Don't let politics, don't let your opinions about politics, don't let anything interfere with business. Use social media for business and you will never ever go wrong. We have one rule in my company about using social media. Ready? I'm going to share this rule with you. You may want to share it with your people. Don't do anything stupid. And what does that mean, Jim? Well, today it means something different than before, or does it? It means keeping it business. And the question is, what are you going to do about it? These are some examples of pre-COVID. Gucci got in trouble for using this. They thought it was blackface. Nike got in trouble for these flags, right? But that didn't bother them. Brands are in crisis before. Brands are in crisis now. Brands in Crisis is a blog. You could read about it. The brand is in crisis today because of the virus and what you say on them. And all of this because of the virus. All of this because business is so under attack is meaningless. If you go through the regular channels and start looking for these things, for architecture and business, we have a wonderful opportunity with one of the leading sustainable architects in the world. This came about because we met 5 years ago at the AIA show in Miami. Reached out to us two months ago, asking if I had updated my guides. I have 8 guides I wrote. We started a conversation, and now we're in the process of signing an agreement to actually represent him in the United States. Can I tell you a secret? That would have never happened, never, without the virus. The virus changed things forever. The reaction of government changed things. But now everybody is looking for business opportunities. This guy's over in Malaysia, right? He wants to come to the United States because he builds beautiful, sustainable buildings. Beautiful. And we're going to help him do that. You can do that too. As you look and you use social media channels, and we're talking about Instagram, we're talking about right? And LinkedIn, all of these social media channels represent opportunities for you to look at, to engage with, and find out, really, where are the opportunities? So, who has time for all this? Well, as I said earlier, you have 24 hours a day. What are you going to do, right? What is the purpose of your post? I'm going to post something on social media, Jim. Ladies and gentlemen, I could take a quick poll now, but I know the answer. Do you post every day? I think you do. Otherwise, you wouldn't be here, right? And even if you don't, I think you're thinking about doing it, right? If you post every day. And if you post every day, what do you post? Right? What is the purpose of your post and who's your audience? In other words, what is your strategy? What do you hope to accomplish with the post? Do you have objectives or are you just talking? I'm just going to throw it out there. I usually see your posts on Twitter, but I haven't looked for a while. This is a direct quote that was told to me when I was interviewing someone. I usually see your posts on Twitter, but I haven't looked for a while. When I said, why haven't you looked? Guess what the answer was? Right? I'm too busy with other things to go on social media. I love it. I use social media to communicate with my clients. Our clients follow me, follow us on Twitter and on social media, on LinkedIn. It's one of the ways you communicate with clients, but that's us, not necessarily you. Everybody I talk to is on these channels, but what are they doing? What is your strategy for being on those channels? Your real questions on social media have to do with what your strategy is for what your company is. I know an architectural firm that just posts excellent content, right? But I have no idea what his purpose is. He's a major architectural firm in the United States. And that's great, but who's listening? Who's listening? Who's listening? In fact, I'm revising my all-time popular staying in front of your customers, in Exabyte World. I'm using COVID because I have to change all my content. Ladies and gentlemen, here's a confession. I had to change all my content, which was very good content, but I had to change it all because of the virus. The virus has affected the way people behave. Not entirely, because the basics are still the basics, right? Communication is essential. We want to meet somebody, sell somebody, right? Those things never, business basics never change. What does change is how you do it. And that's the real questions on social media, that you have to have a strategy. And it is about content. It's about followers, who you're following, right? Here's an example. Efficiency or ... This was a post. I'll tell you my purpose in a moment. The USPS returned this card as non-deliverable yesterday, almost 4 years from the date we mailed it. Question: where has the card been all these years? If only mail can talk. Still, thank you, USPS, for your honesty. So we mailed this card. It came back 4 years later. I posted this a couple months ago, right? 2 months ago. Little did I know. All of the conversation going on around about mail-in ballots right now, ladies and gentlemen. All of the conversations going around, right? All the conversation about mail-in ballots. Here's a card that we mailed 4 years ago, and the USPS, God bless them, returned it to us the other day, 2 months ago, 4 years ago. This was on a webinar, on a half-day webinar in doing business in the age of disruption. I got 13 comments. I got more comments on this than I ever had before I post I post a lot, right? But then it dawned on me this was a good post because I shared a piece of information. A, no one else had. B, it showed what's going on in the world today. And little did I know, because one of my strategies of doing social media is to be a thought leader. What's your strategy? We want to be a thought leader. This is posted 2 months ago. And what are they talking about today? The United States Postal Service and mail-in ballots. Well, Jim, this is just the postcard. Well, yeah. But it's a postcard that went through the USPS. I ain't saying anything. I'm just saying, right? Conversation. Here's another one. I did this 4 months ago. I'm sharing a couple of posts that were very, very popular. After wiping down my desk with Lysol this morning at the office, yes, still going in on shifts, because this was on lockdown, we're still going in, right? And I'd be a little tongue-in-cheek, hand washing 80 times a day. I thought, do you smell that? Do you smell that? It smells like victory. You've used Lysol. There's no mistaking it. In fact, I am actually yelled at by my employees when I Lysol the room, because they walk in and they just asphyxiate themselves, right? Because Lysol is a powerful disinfectant. I've got 2 comments, 11 likes. It was unbelievable, right? And you know what the movie's from. right? You smell that? It smells like victory. That was Robert Duvall in Apocalypse Now over napalm. Napalm. It's about content. So, social media strategy has to do with communicating, building them, sustaining them. LinkedIn, yes. All the others, it's up to you. It's up to you. Are your customers using it? What is your purpose in using it? I've got over 24,000 tweets, right? That's not since the virus. That's since I started on Twitter. That's my preferred medium. I like it. I only have little less than 700 followers. My strategy was never lots. My strategy was quality. And you can see the followers, which I'm going to talk about in a minute. Because you are a publisher. You are a publisher. Should I repeat that? You are a publisher. Your website is your content. Your social media is your content. So act like a publisher. That's the dirty little secret media outlets don't want you to know. You are a publisher. Your audience is your audience. It's not their audience. It's your audience. What are you doing with your audience? Do you really know your audience? The idea of having an audience is to relate to them, isn't it? And you relate to them with conversations. And I'm not just saying use social media. I'm saying use all the tactics. I wrote a letter to the president of a major plumbing company on July 26th. A letter. USPS letter. He called me on July 3rd. He's now linked in with me, right? We're linked in. We're chums now, right? No, it doesn't mean we're chums. It means we're connected. And I have an opening to talk to him further. That's what you have to do. You want to create openings in order to engage in conversations to create opportunities. So don't post every day. Unless you want to, unless you have the time, that's all you want to do. But if you do post every day, what's your strategy? What's your purpose? And who's your audience? What's your strategy? What's your purpose? And who's your audience? Do you do long or short content? You're limited on Twitter. You're not limited on your posts, blogs. Google reads everything. Do you do content or data? Which is the king, right? Is data more important than content, or is content data? These are important questions, ladies and gentlemen. Social media follows are a privilege, not a right. To have someone follow you, it's like driving a car. Well, that's a right. No, it's not. It's a privilege. You get a license not because it's your right. It's a privilege. We used to have a saying in grade school. We came up with clever themes, right, when we were in grade school. A car is a weapon. Treat it as such. Nobody bought that, but that's true. It's a privilege. Posting on social media, well, it's a right. We have a right to say what we want to. Of course you do. Or do you? That's the big debate nowadays, isn't it? That's what you're seeing. Do you have a right to say what you want to say? Well, if you're saying it about business, I think it's your total right to do it. But businesses are being attacked, right? So you have to be calm, you have to listen, you have to be safe, but you really want to understand the value proposition. Because there's nothing new under the sun. Ladies and gentlemen, this has been going on for centuries. Except now we can see it. I had an engineer friend who said, Jip, social media is evil and it will destroy us. It will destroy the world. And I said, John, why do you say that? He said, because there's so much BS on it. So much BS. I said, let me ask you a question. Do you think BS existed before social media? He says, of course it did, but now you can see it. And that's the point. That's the point. Why do you believe the BS? Why do you believe anything? That's the beauty. This is going to sound really weird. I'm going to say it anyway. That's the beauty of COVID-19. It's making us ask ourselves what we should be believing and what we shouldn't. What is the truth? The truth about business is you don't have a business unless you can sell something. And if you're being handcuffed from selling something, you're out of business. It's that simple. So if I want to free myself of my handcuffs, right, I have to do something to start the business. I had a designer panel I was on. I said, do your clients still, this was an interior design panel I was on. This is after the virus hit. Absolutely. We hold our masks up to our clients, and we say, do you want me to put this on? Right? And most of our clients, this is a direct quote, most of our clients tell us no, and we go in and we work with them. Now, why is that? And some clients will say, keep it on, and they'll keep it on, of course. But this person was very adamant about saying most of my clients don't require the mask. And this was in the heart of COVID, when it was spiking up. Elderly people, too, by the way. Well, why is that? Well, who's going to report on that? Well, I just heard about it. I didn't tweet about it, although I did blog about it. But I'm just one voice in many voices, right? You have to be the one gathering the data. You have to be the one thinking about these things. And for heaven's sakes, you have to be the one deciding on what you post and what you don't post, what you talk about, what you listen to, what you believe. And you have to tap the experts. And as you do that, if you keep it in business, there's experts in business, but business has been so disrupted by the virus that there are no experts. I'm just a voice, I'm another voice in a world of many voices. But I'm telling you from our experience of 30 years, the things we've done for 30 years have kept us standing today. That's why we're still standing today. Because we took advantage of everything we know. We're trying everything to stay viable, to keep our people employed and have livelihoods. We're not going to let the virus stop us. The government may stop us, but we're not going to let the virus stop us. So, tap experts. What do consumers get from what they can't get anywhere else? Well, Jim, they don't want anything anymore. Well, that's not true. Did you hear the housing statistics? Housing is going through the roof. People are remodeling like crazy now. Why? Because they're locked down in their homes. This is a golden opportunity for architects and designers. You just got to get in front of these people and start talking to them and help them solve their problems carefully. We talked to one showroom when they're carpenters. They have to furlough them for a couple months. But they're back now. And when they're back working, they leave little notebooks so that the consumer can feel safe writing in the notebook, right? About any notes they may want to do if they don't want to be around when the dust. And you know how dusty remodeling gets. Do customer satisfaction surveys. Respond to 5 individual. Do something. Don't just sit there. Frequency matters. Or does it? You have to think about this. Once you begin a gesture, it's fatal not to carry it through. What is frequency? Well, how often do you post? Why should you post more than once a week, twice a week, once a day, 10 times a day? There's tools out there. Social Pilot, I'll show you in a moment. You can load up all your tweets for the week, and it looks like you're doing it now. You could use shortcuts. You can't use Google shortcuts because they don't exist anymore. But there's plenty of other ways to shortcut it, and some of these tools actually will shortcut, right? Your tools. There's IP reverse lookup, Upland Leadlander. This is a picture of social media. This has all the accounts. These are all my accounts. Interline Jim. I can go in this program and I could post on Twitter. I could do Instagram or LinkedIn or Pinterest. This is what a reverse IP lookup dashboard looks like. Right? These are recent visitors to my website. I have a code on my website. You should have a code on your website. Your code on your website will tell you who's looking at you and what they're looking at. This is my Twitter account. I'm not just being self-serving. I'm saying this is what I do. I only have 687 followers. It's not a lot, but I have 30,000 tweets. Boy, was I a Twitter. They used to call me Mr. Twit. But it's all about business. It's all about business. ASID, one of the leading associations, has a Twitter account, right? They also have a Twitter account. And if you go to their Twitter account, they have followers and there are people who follow. You can do this with anyone. You could look who follows them. You could decide to follow them. You could look at who they follow. You can have a conversation with some of them. You could tweet to them directly. The beautiful thing about Twitter about actually any social media channel, but in particular Twitter, is you can talk to anybody. You can reach anybody on Twitter directly. All you have to do is know their Twitter handle, type in your Twitter account, the message, and you can talk to them directly. They may ignore you, but you could talk to them directly. And I've used this to great effect in talking to high-profile people who would never talk to me. So, we're winding down. We have 10 minutes. If you're on the channels, if you're not on these channels, start using them. And when I say use them, I do not mean talk. What I mean is that you should be listening on them. Don't be afraid of failing. You can't fail. If you're not on the channels, join them just to listen. Be careful of them also because of like TikTok. Use the channels for business. Let's take an oath, ladies and gentlemen. I swear, no, I'm just kidding. But you should. You should use it only for business. If you want to get political, take out your personal account. Become a blogger. Bloggers are great ways to communicate with people. I just posted in my most recent blog. You should read it. Act big, think big, be big. But when I post blogs, I have the tracking tool on my website. I know how many people look at it. I know how many people read it. I know which companies read it. I'm serious. That's valuable information to you to talk not only about what you're talking about if it's relevant, but you can see it. Some of my blogs have been read by 10,000 people. I'm not just saying that to brag. I'm just saying that if you're writing relevant and your goal is to become a thought leader, that's our goal, you have to write relevant things. And not everyone hits a home run. You can't hit a home run every time. And some of these blogs, okay, are personal. Wait, Jim, you said that they shouldn't be personal. Well, everything is personal. Didn't you watch The Godfather? If you watch The Godfather, you know it's business. It's not personal. Of course it's personal. When you strangle a guy, it's personal, right? But I intermix the personal with business. 7 things to do when you lose a pitch. That's one of my blogs. It's absolutely over 10,000 reads on that. Lawyers read it. Financial planners read it. You know why? Because people lose a lot of pitches. And that blog, when I wrote it 2 years ago, and you can Google it. You don't have to know it's on my website. Just Google 7 things to do when you lose a pitch. I'm number 1 on page 1 in Google. Because Google started seeing everybody reading it and just bumped me up to page 1, number 1. I like to use Google instead of Google using me. Think before you act. Think before you do anything. Don't just hit the send button. You're on the most powerful networking tool ever invented, the internet. The internet is the most powerful networking tool. You can be seen by anybody, you can touch anybody, you can reach anybody. So get professional guidance when you need it. Gene Kranz, actually, Lovell the astronaut said, Gene Kranz's book, Gene Kranz wrote a book, Failure's Not an Option. He said, Gene Kranz said it, if you don't know what to do, don't do anything. Because if you do something when you're doing flight control, people can die. So if you don't know what to do, don't do anything might not work today for you. Because you got to do something. But don't do the wrong thing and never assume anything. Tie your website into your channels. Look at the channels carefully and measure whatever you do. So we have 8 minutes. I'm going to the question box now. You should, hopefully you have some questions for me. Let's go to the question box. 1 second. I don't think I have any questions. I can't. Here's one. What is the best, in your opinion, Jim, what is the best social media channel for business these days after the virus? Great question. Thank you, Debbie. Debbie, the answer to the question, in my humble opinion, the best social media channel today for business is, in fact, drum roll please, LinkedIn. Why do I say that? I say that because LinkedIn has always been, not just for finding jobs. Most people think, oh, that's where I go to find a job. No. That's where you go to find people, target people. That's where you go to find people who are involved in groups you want to join. LinkedIn is the most powerful network for business because it is the business network. People are on LinkedIn because they want connections. We have a client who has, they said they're only on it for connections. And they're on it for connections. It depends on your strategy. But you can find anybody. You can target people on LinkedIn. We did it for a security company. This was when the virus first hit. This was one weekend. This was a Sunday. The VP of marketing for this security company, big security company, they're buying companies like crazy, right? I saw something. I sent her a note through LinkedIn, a little message, and the next thing you know, we're connected. That's how powerful this is. And she responded on a Sunday. During the extreme lockdowns, not just nowadays. LinkedIn is with Debbie. I hope that answers your question because, in my opinion, that's the most important one. Let's see if I have any other questions. There's a hand up. Oh, went down. Right. Hand is not raised. Michelle had her hand up, but she didn't. She took it down. Michelle, put it back up. No, I'm serious. I'm kidding. Okay. No questions? I must have done a good job, huh? Oh, there's the hand. Maybe not. Maybe I can't see the questions. Okay, no questions. Okay, here we go. Thank you. From the bottom of my heart, I really appreciate the hour you spent with me. If you have any questions, here's my email, jim@interlinegroup.com, jim@interlinegroup.com. My phone number, office, 847-358-4848, 847-358-4848. I'd be happy to answer any questions. What I'm going to do is record this. This will be posted later on. I'll send you the link. I'll send the follow-up to those who attended, and even those who couldn't make it, because there are a lot of people who couldn't make it. And if you want to do interlinegroup.com/evaluate, I will send you the 8 guides that I sent to my friend in Malaysia, the sustainable architect, for no charge if you evaluate this course. You can follow me on Twitter at interlinegroup.com. By the way, I have 6 courses for those architects out there on the continuingarchitect.com. If you go to the Continuing Architect and go when you're navigating to the business of architecture, you'll see all my 6 programs recorded. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, you can see Jim Nowakowski live on video. Is it live or Memorex? Next October 13th, we're going to have the digital environment one that I'm revamping for COVID. That'll be on October 13th. I'd like to thank you very much. If you need help getting your credits for the AIA, IDCEC, or NKBA, let us know. Thank you so much. I wish you had more questions. Hand raised for 50. Okay. If you had more questions, please email them to me, Jim@Interline Group. Thank you again. Enjoy the rest of your day. Let's go get them.